Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of We Are McGill Social Work. I believe this is our first episode in 2022. So what is the best way to start it with the students, which are the stars of the program? I think so far we've talked to professors and other researchers in the school, but today we have the graduating class of the BSW. So I'm here with my colleagues from U3 that we've been together for the past 3 years. So I'm very excited to hear what they have to say and share with you guys. Again, my name is Alice Ishimwe. I am in my last year of the BSW. And I'll pass it on to whoever wants to go first and introduce themselves and say a little bit about themselves. On my left, we'll go with the squares of Zoom. So my left is Kyra.
Hi, I'm Kyra. I'm in my third year of the BSW. I guess I work in community currently while pursuing my BSW, and I'm interested in the field of mental health and addiction.
Great, thank you, Kyra. Welcome. Karen, you're next. You're right under Kyra on my screen.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm Karen Metier. I'm finally graduating from the BSW program. So I started as a part-time student and then full-time. So my journey was actually 4 years. And right now, as I'm finishing the degree, I'm also working in the school system as a social worker. And I'm interested in work within the school system, the education system, and also anything related to work with, I would say, racialized families, Black families, and individuals. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Sam.
My name is Sam. I'm also a U3 student. I actually won't be graduating right at the end of the semester. I still have a couple classes to finish up. I've done a bit of work in the community sector. Right now, I'm doing a stage at KSCS out in Ganawage. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to fit into the social work realm and what I'm most interested in.
Thank you guys for joining me. And I like that we have kind of different journeys, part-timers, those who started before, those who are still here. So that speaks to how not linear this journey into the school can be, and we're all engaged in community work, we're engaged in our field already. So it doesn't have to be one thing at a time. It can be different ways to get to your education and then also start working or continue working. So let's take it back to where it all started. I would say for me and Kyra, Sam, did you study in 2019 as well?
Yeah, I started at the same time as you guys.
Okay, so for the three of us, I would say for me it was May 2019 that I got the letter that I got into McGill. I was so far away from here in Edmonton, Alberta. And yeah, I want to ask you guys, how was it? How was it when you first got in? And for you, Karen, I guess it's a year before that. Yeah. And what was going on through your mind before you arrived here? Let's start with Sam this time.
Okay, so I am originally from Calgary.
You too.
Yeah, a fellow Alberta. And at that time, I was, I think, in my second year of art school. And I was kind of over that process. I wanted to do something a little more, I guess, interactive with other people. And so I applied to the program and I got in, I want to say even maybe June. And it was kind of like, okay, I don't know what words we can use, but I was like, oh crap. Oh crap. I guess I'm picking up and going to Montreal. And I was excited. I was excited about the program. I had this kind of conception that I'm leaving art school. McGill must be so much more challenging. What am I in store for? But I was really excited at that time to come out.
Kyra?
Yeah, so I'm from Montreal. I did a first degree in social services at Dawson College. And after completing that, I decided to work for a year in the field. So I did outreach work with the homeless population. During that time, I was kind of still like if I wanted to do this field. And I think it was like a really formative year for me to kind of develop myself as a person. So I finally decided to apply to the program because I just felt like I needed to know more. I felt like the first degree that I did, I got a really technical view of the job, but I wanted to look at things, I guess, more on a critical level. So when I got the acceptance, I was really excited. I feel like I didn't really know like what to expect and things like that, but I was super happy to embark on the journey.
How about you, Karen?
Yeah, so for me, my journey is kind of similar to Kyra. So I did my DEC, but in special care counseling. And I've been working at that time, well, it's been like 8 years that I was on the field working with youth, with families, and in high school at that point. And after 8 years of doing special care counseling, I too felt like I was restrained and that I wanted to do more. I needed to learn more and to better help my clients. So that's when I decided to apply in social work. And when I got in McGill, it was summer 2018. I was ecstatic too. I was like, wow, McGill. I had like McGill on this pedestal, like, whoa, this huge university. It was challenging because I'm Francophone. So I was like, do I really want to go there? And like, I am bilingual, but English is my second language and I've never studied in English, always in French. So it was kind of challenging, but my family was like, go for it. First gen student, university, Asian woman, Francophone. So they were like, you do it. So I went and I was pretty excited. So yeah, that was it back in 2018.
I'm glad to hear that we're all excited. I was very, very excited. I could not believe that I would get in. I honestly did not think that because I had been working for a while and McGill appeared to me as one of the prestigious schools. I applied to only McGill because I wanted to know if I get in, I will go. If I don't, then I'm gonna stay here, And when I got in, I could not believe it. Honestly, the whole through I was like, oh yeah, it's just maybe gonna be next year or another time. So I was very excited when I came here as well. Full of hopes and positive vibes, and I did not know what to expect because I don't think I was had been interacting a lot with social workers. I was working in the field for quite a while. I worked in homeless shelters. I worked for a long time with people with disabilities, with children, different services, but not actual social workers. There's a lot of child and youth care programs over there. And I think most of the people that I was interacting with were graduating from that. So I didn't really know what to expect in a program for social work. But I was ready. I was like, let's go get this degree and then maybe come back or maybe go do something else. But I was very excited as well. Yeah. And now we're here. I think in our U1, we were mostly at Wilson Hall when classes were in person. Different era right now. I don't even remember what that looks like. I remember we used to go for breakfast at McDonald's to get our coffee and things like I don't remember. Like sit in front of the classroom while we wait for the prof to open the door. All these things sound so fun and dear to me right now. Yeah. So then in a program, say you won before the pandemic. What did you think? Had your perceptions of the program changed? Were you getting into it? What do you think was significant during that time, maybe pre-pandemic? I start with you, Kyra.
Wow, it feels like another universe.
I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, has my perception changed? I think going in, I was expecting a little bit more like of practical. I knew we were going to be looking at a lot of macro aspects to social work, but I think I thought I would be exposed to more like practical training in the classroom. I think I have received that from my stage. But I think also online that might have changed a lot too, because it is harder to do learning practical skills online on a screen instead of kind of being face to face with your peers. So I think my ideas of the program have kind of evolved throughout the pandemic too, of like what I can and can't receive from an online learning environment versus a in-person one.
How about you, Karen?
Yeah, totally.
In social services before too.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I think because I already had a background in a technical program where you do learn a lot of practical stuff, and I did have some work experience, I feel like even though I have to say that I was also expecting a lot more practical. My background helped me to I was able to kind of go back and forth and use my own experience. Had I not have this experience, I think it would have been harder because it was, and even though I do love theory and critical thinking and all that, I was expecting that they would be more balanced, that they would be more practical and all these theoretical, I would say, learning experience. So that kind of took me off a little bit. So for me, my background, I think, helped me because I was able to kind of put it together. But stage definitely, I think, helped for that because that's where I was really able to, use hands-on whatever we were learning in class. And so, yeah.
How about you, Sam, coming from art school and switching to social work? How was it? Maybe
yeah, I think in that first semester coming from art school, I just assumed that like, okay, this is going to be so much more extensive. It's going to be so much more difficult. And so I really was like, I'm going to go to the library. I'm reading everything that I can possibly read, because if I don't, this is McGill and it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And I think after that first semester, I started to realize, with all the non-practicality stuff and just the constant readings, that so much of it just being academic, like I had already known how to write papers, I had known how to do these things before, that I noticed that I didn't need to apply myself as much. And I think I really struggled with that because I wanted to really apply myself. And so similar with like practical experience, when the pandemic first hit, I started working at one of the local shelters. And I feel like that's where I really started to grow within the social work setting, and not so much in the classroom setting. It was more those practical skills, real life implements of those. That's when I started to really develop within social work.
Right. And for me, I echo that too, because I had come from working with people, and I think I was coming in to see, is there something I can do better as I go into the profession? But then after, I realized, I remember when we used to do all the readings, read from page 1 to page 50. I was like, this is so much more like academia, the studies, the research, this, the that. And at first, I was like, oh, okay. And then I realized that maybe there's a way that those things also contribute to the field of social work in one way or another, but it's not what we see in shelters, in housing programs. It's not really what we see in the community. And then other than being like pulled away, I was more interested to see like, so why do you guys continue doing this? Where does it go? And I think that's where my curiosity for macro social work came from, because I was like, this whole department of people who dedicate time for research and policy and all that. and they're somehow, in my mind, they're somehow disconnected from the clinical stuff. But then where does it come from? Then I started learning about systems and who changes the system and what. It's a whole different world. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll stick around to see if my little voice can contribute to that at some point. And that's why I'm here, because all the things I used to do, I don't see them being discussed in classrooms. We don't have time for things like that. And even the online space made it more complicated. But I believe there are different phases of what education or being a professional looks like for McGill and other higher learning social workers. Yeah. So we're here now and we're about to graduate. I know you guys touched on a little bit about your stage and how that has helped bridge the gap between what we're seeing in the classroom and what we're seeing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit, where you did your stage in U2, where you're doing it right now, U3, if you're doing one, and how that has impacted your learning. Sam, you want to start with you?
Sure, yeah. I did my U2 stage at CJE NDG, which is kind of like a half community, half government organization. So I was in the youth intervention program over there. And unfortunately, you know, like we talk about COVID affecting the online learning, but COVID also had its implements on actual practical experiences as well. So I know that like for the work that I did in the community sector, it made it a lot more difficult. For the work I did at my stage, they really lost a lot of numbers of their community members when the pandemic hit. So I wasn't as engaged as I would have been if COVID wasn't around, because they just didn't have the community members coming in to work with them. So I got what I could from the experience. I don't know if I got tons of practical knowledge there. And as for my second stage, I literally just started this week. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of this. So far, I love my first 2 days, and I'm really excited to see where it goes for the rest of the semester.
How about you, Kyra? Thank you, Sam.
My first stage was at Toxicostop in social reinsertion. So it's a resource that after completing a drug addiction therapy, they have like 6 months to spend in a social reinsertion program. What's interesting was like I started my stage like during COVID, so I feel like I came into these like stages or my first stage like kind of not knowing what the resource looked like beforehand. I think because I did my stage in the summertime, COVID had kind of like settled down, so I don't think I was like too severely impacted in this stage. That first one was a great one. I think I learned like a lot of like good writing skills, things like that. My stage that I'm in currently is at the CLSC Benny Farm in adult mental health. This is a really clinical stage, quite different from my community roots, I guess. But it's really like 12-session counseling. So I feel like with this stage, I'm really refining my clinical skills, my counseling skills, which I think will only benefit me kind of further in the future if I want to go back to a community setting. And it also has been quite affected by the pandemic. I don't get to see all the staff. We usually work as a very interdisciplinary team, but not everyone is always present. So we're doing a lot of meetings online. But I also think there's a learning opportunity in that too, kind of adapting to the ever-changing system and kind of seeing what's being thrown at us. So I'm taking it with open arms.
Oh, wow, that's good. So you got a mix of both worlds. Yeah, Karen.
Yeah, so I did my first stage in SAPA. So it's like home care with the elderly or people with physical disabilities. I actually enjoyed it. It was more case management type of social work that I didn't know of. There was a lot of, we did home visits, which is something that I like because I actually got to be in the client's environment, which is something totally different than actually meeting a client in an office or something like that. I did learn a lot about all the, I would say, notes writing and doing assessments. In SAPA, there is a lot of administrative stuff, which is, for some people, they like it. Me, I was kind of in between, but it was a great learning experience to do that case management and just learning like that side of social work. It was, I would say, special with the COVID situation because we were doing home visits, but with mask, I had like all this equipment on me and going to the people's house and just looking like a mask robot or something into their home. So it was sometimes difficult, to create like a relationship with someone when you come in their home, like with gloves and everything. But, we adapt, I guess. And I did my final stage. I did it as a block placement. So last summer, so I'm done with it. I was, sorry?
Full-time, like a Monday?
Yeah,
oh.
Exactly. Full-time, well, 4 days a week. So I did Tuesday to Friday. I think the block placement better because, when we do the stage throughout the years, like 2 days a week for like a year, I like to do the like 15 weeks, 4 days a week. I felt like my experience was enhanced. I was able to be with the team a lot more. People would know me better. So I preferred that stage, the setting of the stage. And also I did it, it was in the CLSC, in the JED program. So it's Jeunes en difficulté, youth in difficulties with families, really clinical settings. It was also similar to Kyra. So we had like an X amount of sessions with the client. So from 0 to 6 months follow up with the youth and their families. So I did to do like family interventions also, which was pretty interesting. I learned to do, the assessment and really, I think, refine my clinical skills definitely, because when you're in one-on-one session, either with youth or with parents, there's like ways of asking questions, of getting this information. So it was really, really formative. And I think I learned that that's the type of social work that I'm into also.
That's good.
Yeah.
For me, I would say that my stages, when I did my first stage with students who come here to Canada through the student refugee program. So it was less so addressing issues at home than more integration, resource providing, a companionship, and helping them navigate a new environment. And then I did my first half of the stage, or the third year stage at the clinic up here in the neuro with patients, but it was more short-term intervention, make sure that they're all set before they go home or if they're going home. And I think the main thing that I learned through that is really, again, how the system affects different individuals and how access to resources can be easy or not easy, depending on who you are, where you are asking from, which region you come from, or which race you are, and the bureaucracy in filling out forms, accessing different, it's just, it almost, every time you brought me back to some rules need to change, some laws need to change. We need more people to advocate for better benefits, for better accommodation for people. So yeah, so I think for me, I'm on the far end of the clinical than, let's get into these government spaces and change things. Yeah. So there's school, and now there's graduation at the horizon. Sam, I know you'll be done soon too. You will join us soon. So what's next? What's next for you guys? What are you planning? What are you thinking? Do you have a plan? And it's okay to not have a plan. I came in here thinking, oh my goodness, I'm gonna go work. You want to change, you two, you change, you three, still change. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you know? Kyra, what are you thinking?
so this is gonna sound a little strange, but so like I think my stage that I'm doing currently, doing counseling, really affirmed to me that I really like that side of social work. And I can really see myself working in like an addiction rehab center or something like that. But I also have a really like another passion, which is like I love working with plants and gardening and everything like that.
Oh, cool.
So I actually applied for a horticultural trade.
Wow.
So I'm going to be going into horticulture school with the hopes of combining the two in some sort of like horticultural therapy. So I could maybe go up to maybe a therapy in a more remote setting or something like that, and kind of incorporate those two worlds, because I really value the counseling setting, but I love working like side by side with people. And I think it's something that's really helped me in my own mental health journey, and we'll see where that's gonna take me.
I see you owning a huge garden, and we come there.
Yeah.
You have 2 minutes outside in your garden before we come in session. Awesome. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to finish a stage in a class around July, and then I'll just have one class in the fall semester to finish up. So I'm not really sure what will come after. I've been contemplating the idea of heading back home. I think unfortunately my Montreal experience coming out here, I've had about 6 months of Montreal without COVID.
Yeah.
That's all I've seen of the city. So it's obviously been like really difficult to meet. I'm fortunate enough to have gotten some great friends over that time, but it's been hard to really adapt into the city given the circumstances. And also my French language, although it's improved a lot, it's kind of there. I still struggle with it quite a bit. So I'm starting to lean towards more like a hospital setting. For some reason, I've become obsessed with hospitals. What about them? Not even social work within hospitals. I just like hospitals. And for those kind of opportunities, they're more back home for my certain standards or my certain circumstances, I guess. But like you, it seems to change every 6 months. So I don't really know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, it changes. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, but social work is so like it's a vast world, so there's so much we can do. So I totally get that. Me too, kind of changed a few times. So to this day, my plan actually, well, surprisingly enough, I never thought I would do that when I started the program, but I applied to the MSW. So hopefully I'll get in. So waiting on that letter saying that I got in. So I want to pursue my study because even though I really love, like I said, my clinical experience, I also I did a research tutorial with a professor in the school, and it kind of opened my eyes to the world of research in a way that I never thought I would, because, you know, when you do research, you actually get to dive into a subject that you're passionate about. And so I got to do research and, you know, write a paper on interventions or programs that can better help racialized families, with all the experience that I had on the field and seeing that, you know, there were gaps in the interventions, the way that things were done with those communities. So I'd like to find I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. Maybe I'd have to kind of create my own job, but like a mesh of clinical and research. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm into, like I said, education too. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I could teach, but in the CEGEP level, you know, to future special care counselor or something like that. So in those waters.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because I also applied, and I think at first I was like, oh my God, another year of school. You know,
Oh yeah.
especially for me, because I came here, I would say I'm a much older person, and I have things to catch up on, you know, and I'm like, another year of school. But I realized, because I'm more interested in macro social work, that I need more foot in the door to be able to access those spaces. I think I'm more interested in policy and how those things affect people, and who signs up on those, and how we can have more social workers in areas where politicians are, you know, because I think most of the times they see us thinking that we only work in clinical settings, but we want to be influential in those decisions as well. So I hope I get in, and then I can continue. And we'll see, maybe that will change too after a while. And then I go back to my original plans. But I'm more, I feel like we land where we need to be, like we're exactly where we need to be. And thinking back of myself as a Black woman, as a mature student who came back to school, and everything else that makes me who I am, every step I make gets me closer to where I need to be. So I don't think I'm making mistakes. So when things change, they change for a reason. You know, when we go through maybe conflict in classrooms, or when we have a heated discussion, when we have something go completely left, it teaches us something, and it adds to our tools of who we are to be social workers. And I think I can commend that to our cohort much more for speaking. We don't let things happen to us without saying something.
Nope.
There's a teaching moment. We need to embrace it, talk about it, get uncomfortable, piss some people off, come back. But in the future, if you're going to be working, you encounter those, and you remember, oh, this is probably where I raise my hand and say something. So yeah, I'm pretty happy for where things have been, negative and positive. I think my educational journey would have been super boring if we didn't encounter online teachings and some not so great events that happened. With the frustration of it all, I think it's what makes us people who work with people, you know. If we're going to be software engineers or something that, you know, we work with computers only, maybe you don't want conflict, but if you're gonna have some conflict and embrace it. Thank you, guys. So to wrap up the conversation, I wanted to ask you a question I ask everybody. To complete the sentence of a good social worker is, in under a minute, tell me what you think you admire in a social worker, you would like to see more in social workers, you want to develop more into your social work hat. Like what is it that stands out to you as a social worker, Shubi? Let's start with Kyra. You look like you're ready to answer.
I was being put on the spot.
Yes.
To me, I think wherever you are, whether it be like the most clinical setting to community, I think it all boils down to the relationship and the time you spend nurturing the relationship with the people that you work with. I think spending the time to work on that and fostering it is, I think, the foundations of social work. Like, you could be the most clinical and theoretical social worker, but I think if you don't have the relationship part, then I don't know like where that would go, you know? So to me, that's like what a social worker really is in the foundation.
Awesome. Relationship based. Karen.
It's a tough one. I think a good social worker is, I would say, someone who's able to use whatever power they have or they hold, but to use that power to actually help and empower people. You know, someone who's being empathetic and just, yeah, don't take themselves too seriously. Don't think that because they have that paper, they're better or they know better than people, but just actually use that power to help and to do better, to do good. One thing I learned in this program is that social workers, there's like this tension within our profession that we do have a lot of power, and you can either choose to use it to harm or to help. So hopefully a good social worker use that power to help. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sam.
Yeah, I think it goes a little off what Karen just said, but I think kind of just like dropping the sense of large ego that you know better than the community members you're with, that you know what the community members should be doing, like scrap all that, and with Kyra's point, that develop that relationship and see it more as an equal playing field where both of you can learn from each other, and not just you being kind of the star and supporting, but more of an equal playing field in that regard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think for me too, it comes down to what you guys are saying. I think what I've learned in this program is that we're all individuals with our own, there's no one size fits all for the learning that we have. So if you are aware of who you are and what you bring to the table, and you're able to get curious about what another person has, because you cannot assume that you're the same, then you'll be able to work alongside them or support them in one way or another. So for me, a good social worker is someone who's aware of their privilege, because I believe we also are very privileged to be able to access higher education. And have to be, because there's a lot of people who can't. And then when you meet somebody, to be curious about what makes them, because then I can be like, oh, I'm working with people who have, say, mental health issues, and then just say, oh, people who have mental health issues. Because amongst them, there will be immigrants, there will be women, there will be children, there will be people who have different stories that you cannot put them in that category only. So just curious about the people that we support, and then start building those relationships that Kyra was mentioning before. So just be like someone who's aware who they are, be curious about the other person before you can form that relationship. So yeah. Oh man, thank you guys so much. I mean, we're very long in our conversation, but I know we can talk for hours and for hours about what this program has impacted in our lives. We didn't even get to talk about COVID and online learning, but I'm sure we'll get to that another time. But I want to thank you for the time you took to speak with me, and continue to wish you another 10 weeks of school, and after you graduate. And good luck to you all. I'm sure you'll be amazing social workers out there. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise.